Uh, Hello, hi. It's been a long time since I've made a video. It only took, making a brand new channel to actually do something like this. So, due to various different circumstances, primarily me forgetting, put this into perspective, I actually planned this like a few years ago and I keep forgetting and yeah, it's been delayed like a whole hell of a bunch. Yeah. So anyway, if you've guessed by the title of the video, this is just more or less me sharing my experience with Linux. Because I mean, hey, new channel. I've been using Linux for like a very long time, and I don't think anyone has noticed. So I guess I will just explain now. No, I'm not doing this just for views. Maybe. Right. So. Obviously, first section, what is Linux? If you haven't heard of Linux, then you either live under a rock, don't really know much about computers, or at the very least haven't heard of a fanboy talk about it somewhere on live stream. At its most basic, Linux kernel developed by Linus Torvalds back in 1989. The idea that it's just supposed to be a spiritual successor to Unix, whatever Unix is really old. Bro, Unix was made in 1969, like... Yeah, I guess that's probably why it needed some modernization. But the only real reason why Linux exists is because Linus Torvalds wanted to use Unix without having to pay money. Now, of course you can't talk about the, albeit really abridged history of Linux without talking about GNU, which stands for GNU not Unix. But I don't know who came up with that acronym, but oh well. GNU's history as pertaining to the origin of Linux isn't even that long. Long and short of it is that like Richard Stallman founded the GNU project, which is the project that is effectively part of the Free Software Foundation. And they were trying to make their own kernel at one point that failed real hard. And so now that's the reason why nowadays the full system is technically GNU / Linux. GNU plus?
GNU Linux. Linux. I mean GNU / Linux. Linux. I mean GNU / Linux. I mean GNU plus Linux. These are GNU tils.
So next up is, what is a distro or a distribution? It's basically just a collection of additions or whatever the hell they even want to add in the first place that is built on top of the Linux kernel to create a full operating system. Think of it like a car, where every car has wheels and an engine, but the engine itself can be anything like electric, hydrogen, hybrid, or whatever. You don't even need like a steering wheel nowadays. I mean, look at this car over here. Of course, there's common distros that, I mean, even if you haven't heard of some streamer talk about it just passively or possibly like in accordance to the programming language named Rust or any other really kind of like tech bro topic anyways, the common distros are what I will make up here to just say a pure distro or a fork distro. I don't know if there's actually terminology for this. I just kind of made it up myself. Pure distros are distros that are built directly on top of Linux, like Arch, Gentoo, Debian, Fedora. Nope, I think that's it actually. And the fork distros is just every other distro that like every other streamer in the world has ever talked about, or at the very least, there's like some flavor of try this version of Arch if you're not some of our neckbeard. Basically, the reason why there's like a billion distros is because they serve different purposes and are for different people. Like Arch is for, people who believe they know how to program and believe they know computers, but in reality, they just kind of insult people on forum pages and say RTFM a lot.
I use Arch, by the way. Rolling basis. Never breaks like most people say. What is going on?
Gentoo is for robots that wear knee socks, so protogens. Debian is for your granddad that probably used Windows 98 back in the day, and Fedora is for people who own a Fedora and think all other distros are kind of like it. Wait, what is this section? Oh. I mean, to be fair, that makes sense, considering, like, you know, like, with literally anything, we can't exactly have nice things. There's been a whole bunch of controversies over the years. A lot of it's just nonsense, because it's just people not understanding, like, the basics of anything. Let's see here. Pipewire versus Pulse Audio, X11 versus Wayland, systemd versus not systemd, and the age verification shenanigans that was thankfully walked back. Oh, right, yeah, that probably made no sense to those of you who haven't heard about any of that. Basically, Pulse Audio is supposed to be audio and nothing else, and it was supposed to be effectively the Linux version of the Windows Sound API. Then they replaced it with Pipewire, which is supposed to be Pulse Audio, but also allows you to do stuff with video. People got really upset at Pipewire for actually no reason. They only got upset about it because it's new and it did more than one thing, which goes against the GNU philosophy of do one thing. Yeah, I don't understand it either. Then there's obviously systemd versus non-systemd.
Yeah, I fought in the systemd init wars. Point, GNU and Linux are just small parts of the systemd operating system.
Yeah, that it's not as bad as people make it out to be, but it's effectively the meat and potatoes of that entire flame war. And oh boy, X11 versus Wayland.
Yeah, I fought in the X-Wayland wars.
Right, so what is an X11 and what is a Wayland? Well, they're both, for a lack of a better, more understandable term, are window managers. Think of it like how Windows does things, but not
competence.
Basically, they are both supposed to allow for applications to be able to display, talk to each other, respond to your input, etc., etc. X11 was made back in 1984, and it was like designed in a time when computers looked like this. So, and it was originally made for Unix, if I remember correctly, so Linux did use it for quite some time, but it's a 42-year-old windowing system. So, of course, there's going to be a modern replacement that people hate for no reason. Enter Wayland, which was originally developed back in 2008, and it was supposed to be just a flat-out upgrade for X11, but then because it didn't immediately get all of the features X11 had in the first 3 seconds it was released in Arch, people wrote it off as incomplete and buggy.
I use Arch, by the way.
The short and long of it is that people don't like Wayland because there are some features that don't exist on it that really should. Even though Wayland has only been around for, let's see here, about since 2008. That's nowhere near 42 years, dude. Yeah, it's just kind of baloney. Right, so about what this video is technically about. It's about what Linux distro and whatnot am I using. Well, I am currently using Fedora 44, and that's about it. Wait, yeah, I know. It's because it's the basic bitch choice. Right? Oh, right, there's another controversy there. So, basically, the idea here is that Red Hat, which was originally founded back in 1993, then absorbed by IBM in 2019, will not really fully absorb it. It's more they were bought, but they were also trying to absorb them at the same time. They're not actually the ones that own Fedora. I mean, they do in fact fund the organization behind Fedora named FESCO, or the Fedora Engineering and Steering Committee. Yes, most of them are Red Hat employees that develop Fedora, but like, by saying that because Red Hat sponsors Fesco, and a lot of the employees at Fesco are actually employees of Red Hat, that Red Hat owns it, well, by that logic, that means that these sponsors here own the Godot game engine because they are some of the biggest sponsors that Godot has. It's kind of another nonsense thing, mainly due to the fact that Red Hat has done some shenaniganery here and there, but they haven't really done that much with Fedora because Fedora is supposed to be the upstream, which means that is where it comes from for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So, can I actually finish explaining what my experience has been with Fedora now?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so I switched to Fedora from Windows like a while ago. I think that was like 2023 or 2024, one of them years, because Windows 11 was being Windows 11, and so far I have not had any complaints. Obviously, big thing there is gaming, but my response is Proton, developed by Valve, and Wine, which stands for Wine is not an emulator. It's made it seamless, if not a flat-out better experience for a large majority of Windows games that obviously aren't supported on Linux. Because for those of you who don't know, the like 3 people that don't know what Proton is, the whole point is that it's supposed to be just getting Windows stuff to work on Linux. But it works better, actually, because there is an AI being shoved down your throat every 3 seconds. But also, there is more than just that, obviously. For instance, I'm editing this video right now using Kdenlive Live. Yeah, it looks a lot like Premiere Pro. I need to get better at organizing that stuff. Holy. But then also, I'm recording this same video using OBS. Now, of course, OBS was already free and it actually was already native on Linux, but hey, if you use OBS, which most people do, it really isn't that big of a deal. But even things that you wouldn't really expect to actually be native on Linux, or at the very least a workflow that works on Linux, is, well, basically everything that Adobe can do. Because, for instance, I'm recording this using Audacity, which ordinarily I would have been using Adobe Audition, but it's like the same thing. There's like 11 billion alternatives to other Adobe Suite software. And also, you know, there's like replacements for Microsoft Word, which, honestly, it's not that expensive, actually, but who cares? It's free. LibreOffice is free. It's actually what I use to write script, believe it or not. Now, of course, your mileage may vary because, as more of a universal rule, free software is in a lot of cases not going to be as polished or as featureful as paid-for software. But you gotta remember that, like, a majority of the people that do everything for the internet are also unpaid. You see this here. So, basically, I'm just using Linux because I don't want Windows 11 to brick my computer. And it's been a very, very good experience overall. So I guess that's just everything I needed to say for this video. Sorry if it was long, or if it was a little rambly, or even if it was a little low quality, because I have not done this in a very long time. Anyways, hopefully I can come up with more ideas for actual videos in the future. But anyways, that'll be it for this one, and I'll see ya.